Welcome to Podkey Fantasy Football, where today's draft values need a harder look. A lot of this year's fantasy market is built on confident storytelling around uncertain roles. The interesting part isn't spotting hype, it's figuring out which hype is actually supported by usage, efficiency, and team incentives. The cleanest structural takeaway in these rankings is that the wide receiver band from roughly WR13 to WR20 looks unusually deep. If that tier really includes players like Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Emeka Egbuka, and Lad McConkey, then the market is telling you something important about supply. You may not need to force receiver in round 1 or 2. That supports early running back builds, but only if you believe these wideouts are truly interchangeable enough to survive waiting. Devonta Smith might be the strongest pure value case here. The argument isn't just talent, it's target redistribution. If A.J. Brown is gone, that's a massive opportunity swing, and Brown plus Dallas Goedert accounted for 18 touchdowns, while Smith had only 4 on 113 targets. The bullish case is that Smith doesn't need a wild efficiency leap. He mostly needs more end zone involvement and a little more volume, and a new coordinator expected to use more motion could help create cleaner access touches. The caution is that target vacuums don't always consolidate neatly. New schemes spread the ball too, and touchdown rebounds are less bankable than target share. Zay Flowers is a different kind of bet. The confirmed part is extremely impressive. 86 catches, 1,211 yards, a near 29% target share, and more than 36% of Baltimore's receiving yards in an offense that barely threw. So the bullish argument is easy to follow. If the Ravens throw even a bit more, and if Flowers gets more than 10 red zone targets, the path to a top 12 season is obvious. The harder question is whether we're double counting the same upside. He already earned a huge share in a low-volume system. Passing growth helps, but Baltimore's identity still matters, and 5 receiving touchdowns might be partly bad luck and partly role. Lad McConkey is almost the inverse. His current price already assumes environmental improvement from Justin Herbert and a more creative Mike McDaniel offense. That doesn't make the bet wrong. It just means you're paying for the breakout before it fully happens. The case works if target manufacturing and efficiency both rise. If only one of those changes, the ceiling may be lower than the price implies. Jameson Williams looks more earned than fluky. The late-season WR9 half PPR pace came after a usage shift, not just random long touchdowns. That's what matters. Once a field stretcher starts getting crosses and short area work, fantasy stability improves because the offense can feed him even when the deep ball isn't there. Christian Watson is a stronger per-route case than a raw volume case. His efficiency numbers are elite, and if his route share rises into the 70 to 80% range with competition gone, the market may be low. But this is also where drafters can get trapped by efficiency worship. Elite per-route production is often what happens before defenses and workloads adjust. More routes usually bring more points, but not always the same rates. Josh Downs is cheaper and simpler. At WR42, you're not paying for stardom. You're paying for the possibility that Indianapolis finally expands his personnel package usage enough for him to become a steady WR3. Stefon Diggs is the classic late-round veteran test. The supportive evidence is per-route efficiency and still viable separation. The risk is that drafters may be using old-name confidence to ignore age, role sharing, and a less certain workload. Javonte Williams is one of the bigger market disagreements, and the numbers do give the optimistic side real ammo. He was 16th in explosive run rate and 3rd in yards after contact per attempt, and his fantasy scoring split tells a useful story. Early in the year, he was RB8 per game with 9 touchdowns. Later, the efficiency and volume stayed fairly steady while touchdowns dropped off. That's an argument for regression, helping him, not hurting him. But the counter is important too. If the receiving role is weak and the backfield isn't fully his, then you may be drafting a profile that needs touchdown luck more than people want to admit. Breece Hall and Tre'Veyon Henderson are cleaner fades at cost if you're prioritizing role certainty. Hall's 17-plus touches turned into only 13 PPR points per game last year, and the Jets' signalling committee usage matters more than old talent priors. Henderson's issue isn't ability, it's price. If Ramondre Stevenson is still meaningfully involved, you're paying early for a role that might not exist yet. Late running back strategy sounds less glamorous but maybe more rational. Taking multiple cheap contingent bets like Kenneth Gainwell, Jordan Mason, or Rashad White and letting September clarify the pecking order is often better than pretending ambiguous backfields are solved in August. Quarterback is another spot where price and certainty are getting mixed together. Jackson Dart at QB9 is the sharpest example. To justify that cost, you need either substantial passing volume, major rushing upside, or both. The criticism here is that a run-first Giants approach could limit each of those. That's before layering in concussion history and mixed camp reviews. There's a scenario where he hits, but the burden of proof at that ADP is high, especially if Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence are available later. Kyler Murray is more interesting because the price is much lower than the historical resume. One bad season is doing a lot of work in his market value, and the move into Kevin O'Connell's offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings, and TJ Hockenson clearly raises the ceiling. The concern isn't statistical, it's durability and adaptation. That's a much narrower objection, which makes the rebound case more grounded than the Dart enthusiasm. Tyler Shuck is the deeper upside swing. The useful distinction is that his supporters are pointing to fit, intermediate accuracy, late-season production, and a designed rush history rather than just vibes. Late-round bets are supposed to look like this. The strategic answer across all of this is tier-based drafting, because tiers force you to ask better questions than rankings do. If 2 or 3 receivers in the same range offer similar projected outcomes through different paths, you don't need to panic when one goes, you need to understand what kind of risk you're buying. That also helps with so-called dead zone arguments. The dead zone isn't fake, but it's often overgeneralized. A back with real touchdown equity or bankable workload can still beat the label. Format matters too. In non-PPR, raw volume, touchdowns, and explosive rushing matter more, while quarterbacks gain ground even faster in 6-point passing TD setups. And one final filter matters in every format. Don't mistake week 1 availability for full recovery, and don't treat extreme efficiency samples as stable talent levels. Those are 2 of the easiest ways the market talks itself into bad prices. That's the draft board for today on Podkey Fantasy Football. The goal isn't to avoid every risk, it's to pay the right price for the right kind of uncertainty. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.